everybody. Now that I'm past the stupid technical issues, I had the temerity to use my my boom microphone for another project, and I guess that means OBS Studio forgets that I have a boom microphone. Can you hear me? No? Okay, of course. Now there's sound. Now there's sound. You can hear me, right? You can hear me? It'll take like 45 minutes before someone responds to that. So for like the 15th time, I'm going to say, my boom microphone, I used it for another project on my computer, and then for some reason OBS Studio decided that I don't have a boom microphone. So it took me a few minutes there to figure out how to get OBS Studio to pretty please treat my boom microphone like a real device. What I was saying when I started the last video is I couldn't find the accessories, but you know, I had time now to find the accessories. So now we have a complete video. Sorry about the technical difficulty. I hope to never again experience that. So we have MMC Probus, pretty good figure. Really hits the brawl aesthetic. Since he's still in tank mode, we can talk about this. The original figure came with like this gun you could attach to the back, so this revives that. I'm not aware of any real tank having anything like this attached to it, so it's not my favorite kind of thing. It does kind of finish off the back, although it would have been nice of them, you know, to finish it off as part of the transformation. You know, you could have a panel flip out or something, but no such luck. At the very least, they could have included like an accessory that was like just a flat, like a plain panel that you could plug in. Whatever. It's like the only flaw I can think of in the figure. It's got that kind of open area there. It has nice little, like most little tanks, it's got little wheels. I don't know why. I've had a few tank figures that just didn't bother with the wheels, and I kind of respected them more for it, because, like, you know, I can drag it along a surface. It's not the end of the world. I'm going to take a little drink. I have an extremely rare soda that I like. You want to see it? Sprite Zero. Almost impossible to find. You have to just go from store to store looking for a store that stocks it. Always amazes me. It means that whoever stocks the soda comes in, sees an empty shelf where the Sprite Zero is, and thinks, yeah, we stocked enough this week. That was enough that we stocked, because, you know, obviously they all sold out, so that was the perfect amount to stock. Perfect. I'll stop bitching about soda. Anyway. So let's transform this into a robot, let's say. I was saying before, when you couldn't hear me, that the machine gun fits on the tank like an accessory, but the machine gun's a little too big. It's not scaled quite right, I don't think. That'd be a hell of a machine gun. It does have little ports that open, and the hinges themselves are on little sliders, so they can be opened all the way if you want to. So, very thorough of them. It has like a little periscope, and I've only just now realized that it rotates, so it probably does look a little more realistic facing forward. Let's transform this some gun. So, the turret in the video, you might have thought, well, why did you rotate it backwards and then rotate it back? Let's put the barrel away. This part of the rotation is a little, you can hear it clickety, 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 clickety. So I like to send it backwards. It's really hard to turn that particular joint when you extend the turret out. And I'll show you. Then you extend this out. This little double hinge that hides inside the middle of the turret. And now it's, you know, it's hard to get the turret to turn without grabbing this hinge, and then you can kind of get the turret to turn. So it's easier to turn the turret and then lift it up. And then you turn it back around. Some people might get this like I did and not kind of think that out very much. And when you put the turret down, it ends up being like way too far forward. It doesn't seem quite right that way. So that's because it lays in that direction. So if you turn it around on that joint and lay it, then you still have to turn this back around. But now the turret's a little more, I think that's how it's supposed to be. So we turn the turret around, we lift it up, and we turn it back around. It can be a little hard if you don't get it straight. It will kind of lay down in this direction for different purposes, but we're not going to get into that just yet. The next stage is we're just going to free up the arms. I mean, we can do the feet. Let's just do the feet. So we close these panels off. We lift up the toes. I like to lift up these heel spurs, and they kind of slide to lock in. So I actually captured that in the video. It's funny. It was actually just 2 frames, like this and this. And then I did just a blend, you know, like a dissolve transition between the 2 frames, and it actually looks like it moves. But I did not shoot like 15 frames of this thing moving like a zillionth of a millimeter at a time. I just shot 2 frames and then did a cross dissolve. Once these are out, they give you a little leverage so you can pop the heels out, because what you're trying to do, there's like a little double armature there. You can see the little hinge and then another hinge. So in vehicle mode, it's this way, so that it sits further this way. And in robot mode and combiner mode, you're just trying to transition the hinge around in the other direction, and then it kind of locks. So now it looks like that. It's lower, it's flush with the toes. That's the goal. So easy to stand them up at that point. We pull the arms out. When he came, I'll discuss this for a second. When he came, this panel actually was flipped like this, and certainly when you're in vehicle mode, it creates a little more flush. It doesn't create a hole on the bottom, and partly because of the convenience of not having to like flip it or forget about it later on when you go to combiner mode. But frankly, in combiner mode, it needs to be like this, and when you undo the whole arm, you can just flip out the panel the other way. The other thing I discovered is when the panel is, let's just do one way and one the other way. When the panel's this way, it can be a little tricky to get the arm to lift up far enough. I just found the arm goes into position a little easier if it's this way. Do it to your own taste. I mean, it's not the right color anyway, and it's the bottom of the tank, so it's a gap or it's not a gap. Knock yourself out, I don't care. But I like to have it this way. When you're putting these back away, here's a note. You might, having gone to tank mode or combined mode, ended up with it like that. And it's really hard to get it to articulate into position. You just want to bend this down like as far as it'll go and then put it away. It's a lot easier that way. Also, I've actually heard this thing has like it has a joint for going to combined mode right here. I've actually heard that joint kind of pop loose from lifting the arm up, because it'll kind of pull that joint. But then when you snap it all together in tank mode, when you kind of compress it, it'll all go back. It's not the end of the world. But it's like this. So we'll just straighten those out a little bit. Go into robot mode. I had a note from one of my fans. Sorry, I didn't write down or memorize the name, but he was a G1 cartoon kind of OG sort of fan, and he pointed out that these what do you call them? Ornaments. I like to just kind of tuck them under his armpits. I didn't really see the point of them. So like that. He pointed out that, the real OG Brawl has like those things sticking out for some reason. I don't like the look of it, so I'm just going to stick with putting them away. Which means they serve absolutely no purpose, but whatever. Before we get too far into the upper body, let's get the legs extended. There are release. I actually took separate pictures. Like I took a picture of it like this, and then I took a separate picture of it you know, like having been captured inward a little bit. So it almost looks like the button moves by itself, but it's a little spring-loaded button. When you go back to tank mode, you want to make sure that you kind of rock this back and forth and get it to pop. But it should be popped out and locked, popped and locked at either extremity of its movement. But you just have to make sure you push them both in, and then you can kind of work. You can work the extension of the legs out. But it just extends a little bit. You can see they pop back in at the other end. And then you get these out of the way, and the legs actually have a double hinge extension that goes up. And then these actually fit there. They don't really lock it in place much. They do have kind of their own locks. I'm not sure why they did it that way, but it makes it really easy to remove them. If you can imagine if they kind of snapped into position, then how the hell would you get them out? There'd be no convenient way to do so. So I think they mostly just kind of move out of the way like that so that he can have like a fairly, I mean, you have to actually kind of hold them in. It helps to kind of touch them when you bend the knee, but it just kind of keeps them out of the way. So they're not really meant to lock the knee, but that's the way it is. For robot mode, you turn this whole thing around. So we pull these rear hip skirts down, and then we can do a 180 on the waist. That's pretty much it for the legs. You can arrange them however you like. Focus on the upper body a little bit. You pull down this plate. I like to flip this down here. You can get a little carried away, and if it's flipped like this, it'll kind of it'll collide as you try to rotate it. So you do want to make sure that it's all the way forward and just kind of flip down out of the way. And then we're just rotating this whole assembly around. You can kind of push on his head. It's not a big deal. It's just a ball joint. But you have to kind of overextend it. So it is a little bit of like parking, because you have to, so you have to bring it all the way back, and then you bring this up, bring this down, which is why you have to bring it back, and then you can kind of bring it back straight, and then we put this away. For the sake of that one fan that pointed out, I'll transform him the right way. So there he is with his little nipple gun sticking out. I think the arms are really clever. There's like a little bit of a slide here, so it slides outward. It helps always to bend it on this joint, so like when you're going back the other direction, make sure that you go like that instead of going like this. It kind of turns into like it's hard to do it that way, so you just want to make sure you kind of push, get that joint to go first and then that joint. But you flip these around. You flip these around. It's my landscaper calling me, so he's just going to call me back, I bet. So I'll have to send one of those little automatic test messages. Leave me alone for a minute. So the hand has to turn around later on for combined mode when this has to be like this, just to cover up space. So I just like to make sure the hand's turned around already, and I like to make sure that this panel's just there already. Getting this tab out of this slot can be a little bit of a pain in the ass, but it's really easy if you just kind of grab the forearm and rotate it like that a little bit. Get this, it's kind of like a double elbow, but you just get that to pop out, and then the tab comes out of the slot pretty easily. Going the other direction, you can start the tab and then compress it in. So that's the idea there. And once you have it out, you can slide this forward a little bit. But I really like how the arms, the treads turn in the arms. It's pretty clever. So we'll do this again. And arrange his arms however you like. And you get yourself a brawl, you can stow his backpack. If you want to use the gun, you have to make sure the backpack goes high enough to do so. I'm trying to remember. The problem is when you turn it around like this, if you compress it, it's going to go in that down direction, right? So what you want to do is maybe start with it up, rotate it 360, and then I'm desperately trying to remember the premise here. Yeah. So it's in the up position. I think it goes higher if I do something else, though. What am I missing? I mean, that's as high as that goes. It won't go any higher. Oh, right. It will go higher. Let's try this again. I don't do this very much because I don't care for the accessories, so I'm sorry. Let's just turn that back around. We bring this up, and then we can bring it up. It gets misaligned, and it's really hard to get it to rotate the notch that it needs to rotate. I feel like I'm still... I had this the other day, and now I'm just fumbling with it. Because you need to get it really high so it clears his head. But you flip up that panel, and then you can take the gun thing and put those to the side. You'll see there is a tab there, and there's a slot there, and it helps to straighten these first. But this can go onto there, so it's above his head. That's what we're shooting for. So otherwise the head get in the way. But I still feel like I did something stupid here. Where did I go? I mean, that's as high as you can get it. There's no higher position. If you rotated it the other way, it wouldn't be high enough. Although it would be fairly high like that. I mean, I don't think that's high enough, though. See, it's like too low. It would collide with the back. You can't put it on, you know. It's like collides with the back of his head. Oh, I know it. I know what it is. So you want it to go. You want it to go like this, but you have to extend that turret bit. That's what it is. And now this can pass through the slot in the front, if only it was turned around the right way. There we go. It can pass through the slot in the front if it was lined up. Thank you. And it can sit really high like that. But you have to extend that turret. And now this thing is high enough that when you plug this in, it fits over his head. So there you go. I finally put on the accessory that I don't like dealing with. But oh, is he menacing like that? So that's how that goes. I debated a bit with myself whether in turret mode, like when it's a tank, if that should be that high, but I don't think tanks' turrets sit quite that high, so I don't know. We might get them back to tank mode so I can kind of show you what I mean by that. But this, like, I like to have that up in this, so robot mode, like that. Well, thanks for the compliments, folks. I'm kind of rambling here, so I'm sorry. Let's go to combine mode. Combine mode, we're almost going to go back to tank mode. We're just going to get this out of the way. Put the legs together. Rotate the hips around. My saturation's way too high on this thing. Just bring that down. There you go. A little more. There we go. Maybe it's just because I'm so close to the lights. We'll just go to -9. Ooh, handsome. Alright. So we're going to rotate the hips around 180 degrees. We're going to put these hip skirts back into place. They kind of lock. We're going to flip these out. There's little grooves that are just kind of part of the artistry, the surface detail. But you can kind of catch one of those little grooves and pop it. Again, if these locked, then that would be a real pain in the ass. They'd have to put like some sort of tab there for you to catch it. But I don't think they're meant to lock. They're just to go away. So we this pops a little bit. If you listen, it's hard to hear. It's like a little bit of a tab. But we just compress this down, and then we have to push the buttons. It's easier to compress it than to pull it out. And just at the very bottom, we want to make sure we kind of work it back and forth. See how the tab is stuck in? So we're just making sure both of those tabs pop on either side, so it's locked. And we'll get the thing out of the way here. Notice it collides with his head, so you do have to release this and then tilt his head back a little bit so it'll clear. And then we just put the head back in tank position. Although in this case we're not going to lock it like this, we're just going to leave this open all the way down. That's how it's supposed to go. Let's redo the arms. So slide back, start the tab, compress the arm, rotate the hand, flip out the panel, bring the cover up. Make sure you flip the first hinge and then the second hinge and then tab it in. That's one. Same thing over here. La-di-da-di-da. You heard me say all the things, so I'm just going to do it. There you go. Put this around and compress it. Alright, and then we just kind of stick them back in this direction. Because we do have these armatures, they snap loose. Okay. Pop. Flip it over. Same thing over here. It's tempting when you still have the clearance to go ahead and snap these shut. There's some tabs that appear, and they do go into tabs in the forearms here. The problem is you also have to capture, can we see them? You have to capture these tabs. So unfortunately you have to kind of just put this down and get everything lined up, and then with it all lined up you give it a good squeeze so that it pops into position. That tab that I've showed you pops. It helps to lift this up so you have a little more clearance. Besides, it's going to be in that position for combine mode anyway. We're just going to move that out of the way for a second. This folds in half and goes here. Now, when you're putting the leg on, it helps to, now I've done it. It helps to have this tab loose so that this whole thing can tilt forward a little bit, so you can slide your leg tab into that slot. But then once the leg is in, then you straighten this up, and this will actually kind of, it'll click a little bit and hold it in position so it doesn't inadvertently move, because it's not meant to be part of the joint in leg mode. And then this thing, just like it did for the putting the gun on in robot mode, we just want to make sure that we've lifted it up and that we have this tab lined up, because we want it to sit low. And there's always tabs for it to tab in as you go along. But this is, oh, while it's still up, let's take a detour. I almost forgot this when I was shooting the stop motion. I started to do my final pull out and turn, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't actually do that. So this is just like Swindle or Fraudo. That pulls out. These heels pull out just to make the foot seem a little bigger. Doesn't really change the structure of the foot at all. And then these can be kind of hard to get started if you don't have the right tool. And I don't. Fascinating. I had all three at the start of this video. Now I have two. And there's the third one. It's always hiding under the edge. But you just need to get this started. They leave you a little corner here to get into. But these flip down to kind of cover up, make things a little neater. And then you can put the turd away now that you're done screwing with all that stuff. But that's the leg mode. It's got pretty good articulation. You know, get the ankle rock forward and back. If the foot would stop disintegrating while they did it, but you can do that. You can do this. And of course he's got his boot for the add-on kit, but we'll see that this Sunday when I do the full combiner video. I just want to focus on this guy. So there he is in combiner mode. He's quite a bit bigger than Fraudo, but he ends up, when he's transformed into combiner mode, he's exactly the same height as Fraudo. But he definitely skipped leg day on his right leg because this is a big beefy calf right here. Yeah, I get whole 3 viewers. Sorry. Sorry I'm boring. We'll go back to tank mode. These are pretty easy to pop out. They're not too bad. They just get them going. Lift that up. Flip this back over and snap it. Tank mode and combiner mode are actually pretty close to each other in terms of their configuration, so it's a pretty quick transition from tank mode to combiner mode. Put these down and then finish them off. Okay, and then this sits like that. These go up. Remember, it helps to do this. This little tab flips down here. This would be too far forward, so we do want to go the other way with it and bring it down. We can discuss raising the turret in tank mode here in a second too while we're at it. Flip down the heels, pop that loose, work that hinge in the other direction so now it's flush with this instead of being flush with the foot. Put the spurs away, put the foot away, flip out these cover panels. So the question is, does that look more like a tank? Or does that look more like a tank? I mean, this whole extension does definitely have to happen to go into combine mode for various reasons. Not the least of which is that for combine mode, you need these gaps to line up so that this whole thing can sit like this. Can sit in the gap, which doesn't allow it to turn anymore. But I've seen people take pictures of it like this because, I mean, you kind of think of that as being like part of the turret, but there's no tank that has its turret mechanism exposed like that. Incoming fire could get in. It doesn't make sense. This is what a tank looks like. So, if you haven't noticed, there's a button that unlocks that. So, tank. We are blessedly done. Hopefully next week my microphone will just work. Hopefully next week I'll check to make sure it works before I start the live stream. How about that? Any questions? No questions? Well, this someone said this reminds them of the Abrams. Certainly a very similar design philosophy. I mean, a tank is designed around primarily its ability to deflect. You know, you don't want to present a flat surface if you can avoid it, besides the skirts being completely flat. But this is like a 70s, or it's based on a Panther 3. It's a German tank, but post World War II. It's a, West German tank design. And yeah, it's very similar to the Abrams. The Abrams is a little bit bigger than this, but this was a fairly good-sized tank. It really does have a barrel that long, but it just kind of looks kind of weird. There's something a little more aesthetic about that. It makes it a little bit more like Warpath, short barrel tank. But it really is supposed to be that long. But yeah, it has a very similar design philosophy to the Abrams. For some reason, it really does have rear view mirrors. I saw these mirrors on it, and I had to look up. I looked up G1 Brawn on Transformer TF Wiki or whatever. Followed it to the toy article, because the toy article tell you exactly what vehicle it's based off of, and sure enough, it's based off of like the Panther 3. And when you look at pictures of actual Panther 3s, they actually have rear view mirrors there. It seems crazy, but really does have rear view mirrors. MMC took the time to put silver on the mirrors, which was nice. Silver like a matte silver paint. So that's nice. Good job. Good job, MMC. Good company. Occurs to me that it's a little too dim, so we'll bring it up. Well, that's it, gang. Not a lot going on here. Sorry about the hiccup with the live stream. It's dumb. Should have made sure everything was actually working. I just assumed it worked for weeks and weeks and weeks until I foolishly used my microphone for some other purpose. And then OBS is like, well, if that microphone's going to cheat on me, then I don't want anything to do with that microphone anymore. Anyway, have a good weekend. This Sunday will be the combined video for this. It'll include clips from these things actually transforming from vehicle mode to combined mode. And then I'll have to kind of work out some way to levitate the parts onto each other. We'll sort it out one way or the other. If it's going to be the combined, if I'm going to go to the trouble, I just feel like I should show the mechanisms kind of like sliding and then locking and everything for the different limbs. So I'll have to figure out how to do that. It's hard to hold something in midair and then move it a little bit. But that's this Sunday. Next Sunday, the plan would be to do Big Firebird Toys Nice-C, that ridiculously hot version of RC that they did. And that thing's, I worry about shooting it and then YouTube deciding it can't monetize something that filthy. And I did get a notification from Target that my MPM ratchet is maybe on the way. So far the tracking hasn't shown it move yet. But MPM ratchet would be presumably the following weekend. I've had the Devil Savior version of the Dark of the Moon, or Revenge of the Fallen. Yes, Revenge of the Fallen long haul. That shipped on August 11th, but for whatever reason, with the changes in their shipping, they Shozi store, who I got this from, it's been shipping since August 11th, but the only tracking you have is like basically the USPS tracking, and USPS tracking isn't going to work until it's in the last like 3 days of movement. You know, when USPS actually has the item. So far for almost 2 months now, a month and a half, it's just said USPS doesn't have this item yet. So theoretically, that long haul is going to show up someday. If you did any pre-orders with Show Z and you don't want to wait that long, just be aware that that original sort of free shipping that you had back when you might have done the pre-order, like I did last year for that long haul, that free shipping had to get converted into shipping by ocean, by boat. That takes a really long time. It's still, you know, the cheap shipping, but it's just not as fast as it used to be because of the increase in shipping costs. So if you end up getting the notification where you have to pay for your pre-order, just make sure you ask them if you can upgrade to air shipping, and they'll tell you. Usually it's, you know, like $5 or something that you have to buy like 5 of a $1 shipping SKU. It's not too hard, but you have to kind of communicate with them and ask them to pay. You want to pay for extra shipping. I did that with this guy, and he showed up fairly quickly, a couple of weeks. But Show Z's got really good prices, but of course they're all the way in China, and in the era of COVID, shipping has been a little slower than it was, and so it's kind of the downside. You're kind of paying like the base price for these things. When you buy it from U.S. retailers, you're probably, a lot of the price increase is kind of like their shipping built into the price. But Show Z was undercutting them by having the base price and then having the shipping be essentially free, because it was a very cheap shipping option for them back in the day. But like I said, all that changed, and now the free shipping is more like ocean shipping. So if you want it faster from them, you have to make sure that you ask for it. But they're good guys. They're good to work with. Just they're far away. That's the trick. Anyway, that's all I have to say. Nobody else has said anything, so I'm gonna head out. You guys have a good evening and a good week, good rest of your week, and we'll see you Sunday with the combination video. Thanks a lot.